what is true, what isn't, what is real, what isn't, what is fake, what is authentic. And I think maybe the internet probably contributes to this whole discussion becoming more complex. How people believe in conspiracy theories and what kind of conspiracy theories is an interesting question that psychologists have mainly addressed, I think, with the idea in mind that you can have certain personality traits that make you more inclined to believe in conspiracy theories. Now, there's a lot that we can critique in this type of research also because the starting point kind of is that a conspiracy theorist is by default somebody who, well, you can think of the images. It's somebody sitting with a tinfoil hat in a basement somewhere, thinking that the whole world is against them. That kind of person is the first thing that comes to mind to many people. But at least in the US, we know from the US that it's actually ordinary people. I mean, apparently the majority of people in the US believe in one type of conspiracy theory or another. So it's not just, the people in tinfoil hats that get engaged with this kind of thing. Yes, the definition of conspiracy theory already is a kind of complicated question. The basic definition is that there is this idea that there's a group of people out there, or even an individual maybe, that is somehow in secret planning some kind of activities that would change the world or the course of history or society in some way. A recent example is, for instance, the school shootings in Florida. Some of the students were accused of being what are called crisis actors. So the accusation was that these are actually not real students who experienced the school shooting, but actually people who deliberately acted to be victims. And it was not entirely clear to anybody who was the party behind that. It was a kind of a faceless conspiracy somehow. Some people blamed the American government, some people blamed the Democratic Party, so all kinds of different alternatives. So even identifying the party that is, or the people who are behind a conspiracy theory is very controversial. You could say that conspiracy theories became a kind of academic point of interest from the 1950s or 60s onwards, starting in the United States with the work of Richard Hofstadter, who thought that there was a kind of specific paranoid style to American politics, that conspiracy theories are actually like a natural part of political discourse in the United States. And unfortunately, the research has been very US-centric. So there's a lot of need for studying conspiracy theories in other environments as well, but also as a global phenomenon. I definitely think that there is societal relevance to this issue. Like some researchers have pointed out that when it comes to, for example, the climate issue, there are many people who don't believe that climate change is a real thing. They think it's some kind of a conspiracy by academics and all kinds of institutions, governments, and there's not much truth to it. Now, obviously, it has nothing to do with lack of information. I mean, we have more information available than ever before. So then the question is, if it's not about lack of information, what is it about then? So the solution is not just to make everybody literate. I mean, that's by default, of course, a good thing. And the solution is also not to expect that people will go like, oh, here is an interesting government report on climate change, I'm going to read it, okay, very nice, I believe it, I'm going to change my behavior entirely. That is also a problem with a lot of the conspiracy theory research, that there is a default assumption that people are rational beings through and through. And that is, of course, not the case. The conspiracy theorists see themselves as a kind of elite minority. So they have kind of privileged access to a reality out there that other people are not seeing. They have some kind of evidence, or they have a kind of vision that other people are lacking. So it also can give people a very good feeling about themselves, that I am somebody who has all this privileged knowledge that other people don't have, and if only all the stupid people would understand and accept this, everything would be fine. So in trying to intervene in societal problems, for example, such as climate change, if we take it to be a real phenomenon and trying to convince people to behave in certain ways so that we can prevent climate change from taking place in a very radical way, as is now the case, it is not simply about informing people. So I think there is something to this whole phenomenon that might help us understand the different attachments and affects and different ways of identification that people have. And maybe if we know something about that, maybe it's more easy to convince people. I don't think conspiracy theories are a new phenomenon. That is another interesting discussion in relation to the internet as a form of mass communication. And this is not only in relation to conspiracy theories, but it's a good example here. So whether the internet just makes visible things that were always there, or whether it actually helps bring about new phenomena. So that is the question with conspiracy theories. And it appears to be the case, there seems to be consensus that conspiracy theories have always been there in some form or another, but researchers are also suggesting that there is a rise in the number of conspiracy theories. But with the rise of the internet as a mass medium, that raises interesting questions about who is spreading conspiracy theories. And also the type of media that we have raises interesting questions in that respect. So again, if you think about the Florida shooting example, what happened on YouTube, for example, was that they promoted these videos that blamed the students for being crisis actors. So they were like on the top of the list of the things that the algorithms promoted. And that's of course a very interesting thing, because the social media that we have are not really neutral actors. They make choices and they promote certain things and make certain things more visible. So actually the media themselves also play a role in the dissemination of conspiracy theories. There was a lot of controversy around this case, for instance. And the rise of the internet also means that conspiracy theories and how they spread, how they are disseminated, are a lot more visible, but often we don't know demographically who these people are. So they are behind usernames, for instance. That may not be actually even the most interesting thing about this, trying to find out who exactly these people are. But the dissemination becomes a lot more visible when you can kind of follow the development of a conspiracy theory on platform or one platform to another, that kind of thing. We have to be very careful when we want to attribute agency to a medium. So whether the internet changed certain things, this always is something that you need to look into very carefully. But I think it's safe to say that what the internet has contributed in the field of conspiracy theory is that people from all over the world can now work together, discuss ideas with each other, bringing evidence to other people. So that's definitely new. So you could say that there is something new in the scale and scope of things. And secondly, I think the internet makes things a bit more multimodal, and it makes the distribution of different kinds of material a lot easier. For instance, on Reddit, if we take that as an example, it has many interesting features to look into when you look at the formation of groups and what kinds of people are considered to be experts. And it's entirely new things like, for instance, upvoting. How many votes does a certain post or a certain person have? It's often interpreted as a signal somehow of their credibility or their authority. And of course, we have no idea exactly how these votes came about. So it's things like these features that are new somehow in one, establishing authority and expertise, and secondly, in how this influences group formation. So the kinds of affordances that the platforms provide in sharing knowledge or information and the spreading of the information. How is it being circulated? Sometimes very, very quickly from one platform to another. And how people engage with this material. So what kinds of forms of intertextuality, for example, are there? So you take a snippet of information from one place and you place it into another. These are very interesting processes in the whole knowledge production. Another thing that I find interesting, which hasn't really been addressed in previous research, is the visual element in conspiracy theories. So if you think about, for instance, the 9/11 conspiracies, that it was an inside job by the US government, or if you think about the conspiracy theories regarding aliens, and the kinds of things that the American government is supposedly hiding from us, and they have a lot of knowledge about aliens. In these types of discussions, what you often see is the importance of the visual. So look at any documentary or the kinds of work that people do in online environments to figure out the conspiracies that are going on. There are a lot of different kinds of visual documents, for instance, that are being displayed as evidence. The 9/11 pictures have been studied very carefully. How is it possible that in the Pentagon, for instance, you have a 5-meter wide doorway, and how is it possible that a huge airplane goes through that door? So that kind of thing is very interesting, because seeing is believing in some ways, and if you have visual evidence, that can be very persuasive in making people believe that there is some kind of conspiracy going on. I think one of the weirdest recent examples of, for me personally, of a conspiracy theory is the Pizzagate scandal, where the emails that were published from the Hillary Clinton email scandal were studied very, very carefully by different kinds of people, and based on the emails and all kinds of other evidence, they came to the conclusion that Hillary Clinton was running a child pornography ring from the basement of a pizza place. And what happened was that eventually somebody went, because they identified a specific pizza place, somebody went there with a gun with the aim of rescuing these children that they believed Hillary Clinton and her associates were keeping in that basement. What was used as evidence were emails between Hillary Clinton and the chairperson for her campaign, for instance, John Podesta. And some of the emails were about ordering pizza for the campaign people. But worry not, there was deeper meaning to be found also in this pizza discussion, so it was not simply about ordering a pizza. So sometimes they would refer to cheese pizza with CP, and then there was somebody on 4chan who had this idea that the CP actually doesn't refer to cheese pizza, but it refers to child pornography. And that was one of the instigators of this whole conspiracy theory, and really in-depth interpretation of these emails and trying to find a deeper meaning in what way they were saying. If you watch some of the documentaries, for instance, some of them are just amazingly well crafted, and both in terms of narrative and how they are presented to you, like in a very appealing way. And there is one recent example, for instance, on an alien conspiracy, where the idea is that the US government actually is hiding information from us. They have a lot of contact with aliens and a lot of information about their alien technologies and things like that. And the reason this documentary claims that they are hiding this information is that it will be very bad for business if the truth came out, because then, for example, we could entirely get rid of fossil fuels and so on. And afterwards, of course, I mean, you watch this and you think, okay, this is a little bit weird, but while you are watching it, it kind of sucks you in. And this is one of the things that I'm interested in. How is the knowledge presented? How is it being formed? And what is the appeal of that knowledge to people? One of the first things that I want to do is to present some kind of a critical overview of what has been done so far. And interestingly, the contribution from cultural studies or discourse studies has been very meager so far. So there is a lot to be done actually in that field. One of the things that I maybe want to find out is some of these dynamics about how groups work in the digital age. How does stigmatized knowledge work? And maybe say something about present-day society as well. We all know, for example, that Donald Trump likes to use the word conspiracy a lot. So he uses that, it has a special function for him in somehow delegitimizing his political opponents, for example.